For a ninja like Sasuke, there isn't much of anything he's not able to do. Due to him having the Rinnegan, the guy has mastery over all 5 changes in chakra nature. His Sharingan Eye allows him to break down ninjutsu almost immediately, and the guy, as a 17-year-old, was stated by Kurama to have a skill set that rivaled the Sage of Six Paths. However, 16 years after that moment when Kurama gave Sasuke that compliment during the Naruto vs Sasuke battle, we finally get introduced to a moment where Sasuke Uchiha met his match and failed at something. He failed at being a teacher to the new version of Team 7, and this failure led to a bit of jealousy of Kakashi Hatake, Sasuke's former mentor. In today's newest installment of Sasuke Shinden, the teacher star pupil, we're going to take a look at a scene from this novel where Sasuke openly admits his frustration and failure in training the new Team 7. Like previously stated, this information comes to us from the light novel Sasuke Shinden, the teacher star pupil. Now, it's in this scene I'm going to share with you guys that Sasuke continues to peel back the layers of his character and expose sides of him that we didn't actually see very often in the series. While Konohamaru is stuck in the hospital recovering from the injuries that were sustained during his mission where Sasuke saved Konohamaru's life, Sasuke takes up the teaching of Team 7. He gives him a very complex jutsu called the Lorentz Gun to master, which, while very powerful, the level of difficulty to learn is so insane since it combines specific levels of chakra volume and chakra control and chakra containment, much in the same way that the Rasengan has required aspects of this in order to learn it, which is why the Rasengan has such a high grade of difficulty when it comes to learning. Sasuke even goes down as far as to breaking down how to do the jutsu in the steps and gives Team 7 an exercise to begin the mastery required to pull off the jutsu, something that Sasuke thinks is enough. However, what Sasuke overlooked is the fact that Team 7, while they are very clear prodigies of their generation, they're still children who need to be groomed and brought along at a pace that fits their skill level at that time. For Sasuke, even though he realized that this was a very complex jutsu, Sasuke refers to it as being something as easy as breathing, not realizing that his level of genius is way far ahead of anybody that he's teaching at this moment. After all, Sasuke has already made a mimicry of ice release, which I've covered in another video, where even Konohamaru's blown away at how casually Sasuke refers to recreating the steps required to recreate the elements of a fake ice release, something that should be impossible for any ninja to attempt, and yet Sasuke Uchiha's ice release is indistinguishable from the real thing, even though Sasuke says like, hey, this is just a mimicry, nobody can tell the difference. Now, the new Team 7 falls into the same category as Konohamaru here, given the fact that they spent the entire day training from sunrise to sunset, and they continue to fail the first step of mastering this jutsu. After the members of Team 7 begin to gang up on Sasuke, we see how Sasuke has a brief moment where he feels a bit of jealousy towards Kakashi. Now, with the context in the scene finally being set, it's gonna be here I'm gonna begin quoting, and then I'll come back and give you guys my thoughts. And it's here I quote, "Oh man, Sasuke, you're a master, give us a hint here," Boruto shouted. Sasuke abruptly lifted his face to meet the pair of carefree blue eyes, even bluer than the eyes of Naruto that Sasuke was used to. "What's wrong, Boruto?" Sasuke asked. "Well, we tried the Rasengan and Shuriken and all types of stuff, but nothing's working. You gotta tell us how you did it. How'd you do that thing with the Shuriken?" Boruto demanded. A hint. Let's see. Sasuke took out a shuriken in one hand and found himself at a loss for words. He performed the movement unconsciously, guided by his senses. It was the same thing as breathing. They should be able to do it too. The whole thing was extremely difficult to describe. "Well, you see, you hold it like this and you just throw it." "But that doesn't tell us anything at all." Boruto stamped his feet in frustration and glared daggers at Sasuke. "Well, how do you adjust the force? A snap of the wrists? Or do you do it with your fingers?" Mitsuki asked. Sasuke stared at the palm of his hand and thought for a minute to himself. There was probably some kind of a hint that he could give him, a trick to this whole process. But he only understood how to do it naturally. Teaching would be something he would struggle with. "Well, the way to adjust it is..." Sasuke leaned forward. "Establish your target, and you just throw it like this." As soon as Sasuke said the words, he knew that what he told them was absolutely nothing. The children sighed in perfect unison. Sasuke smiled to himself. "I'm not suited for teaching. That Kakashi, he'd always been so great with words." While Sasuke simply acted on instinct that defied explanation, Kakashi communicated all of his knowledge and experience to the next generation in an easy to understand manner. It wasn't as easy as Sasuke thought it would be. I've got a long way to go to be a good master, Sasuke thought. End quote. Now, what I love here is the fact that Sasuke realizes something that not everyone who goes into teaching actually realizes, which is not everybody's cut out to be a teacher. Now, you can be the most knowledgeable person in the world about something, but that doesn't mean that you're the best person to actually teach it. Now, I've talked in the past about a couple of videos about how Naruto was required to teach at the academy after the 4th Great Ninja War and how big of a deal it was for Naruto to progress as a character as he marched along the path to becoming the next Hokage. However, the same thing's true for here when it comes to Sasuke. Sasuke never really had to learn what it meant to actually teach people. Previously, when he trained Boruto, it was merely him acting on instinct on what it was that he wanted to do because Boruto was a natural prodigy. Boruto was able to pick up on the basics by himself. He didn't specifically have to teach Boruto step by step how to actually reach the end goal. This is very important to keep in mind because just as Masashi Kishimoto said back in 2017, Boruto differs from Naruto in that Boruto is naturally gifted and looks for the fastest ways to learn ninjutsu, which means he has a tendency to skip out on the basics, which means that Boruto might understand how to do a jutsu, but he doesn't actually understand how he got to that point. He just wants the flair of having a flashy jutsu. But when you have to go back to the basics, that type of approach doesn't actually sit over well with Boruto. That's why we see it in the car actuation arc when Kakashi teaches Boruto how to make a new Rasengan. Boruto's frustration begins to visibly grow once it becomes clear that he's going to have to go back to the basics of the Rasengan and start from there to develop a new Rasengan. Kakashi figured it out that it was the best way to give Boruto the breadcrumbs to follow while giving Boruto enough distance to figure things out for himself, all while Kakashi came up with a plan to have Boruto test out his new jutsu in a battle against Shojoji during the middle of the car actuation arc. For Sasuke, this is the first time he's having to go step by step to teach a jutsu. He realizes that sometimes things aren't as easy as he feels that it is, and he's seeing right here that Team 7 is struggling with something and he can't really put it into words the right way to drop the breadcrumbs for them to figure it out. Now, I want you to imagine it like this. Imagine if Jiraiya told Naruto, hey man, you want to learn this Rasengan, just gather chakra, contain chakra, make it rotate, and bam, there goes the Rasengan, dude. Jiraiya gave Naruto a step-by-step way to do the Rasengan, filled with examples, and he kept his distance to allow the 12-year-old Naruto to actually grow without actually stepping in to spoon-feed him the way to do the jutsu. This is where Sasuke is with Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki, but he can't quite figure out the best way to teach them, which brings him back to being somewhat jealous of Kakashi's way of teaching because Kakashi made it look so effortlessly, and Sasuke himself acknowledges that, hey, I've got a long way to go before I can actually become a good master. Now, for me, I love moments like this because you see as Sasuke grows as a sensei to Team 7, and you see as the new Team 7 begins to grow under Sasuke's care. Everyone benefits from this relationship, which is really nice to see as you begin reading the novel. Now, this brings me to my question for you guys. So, who do you guys think is the best teacher in Naruto, and why do you think so? Let me know down in the comment section below, but as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.